सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। कटाक्षकिरणाचान्तः नमन्मोहाब्धये नमः। अनन्तानन्दकृष्णाय जगन्मङ्गलमूर्तये। पेज नंबर 50, श्लोका नंबर 15। न च स्वजन्म नाशं वा द्रष्टुमर्हति कश्चन तौ हि प्रागुत्तराभावचरमप्रथमक्षणौ। Don't try to read the meaning, you will get confused. The usual habit is क्या बोलने वाला एक बार देख तो लूं। This one specifically is a beauty of expression of the Sanskritam language, the logic and the presentation. But it has to be understood contextually. As I said yesterday, the last shloka and this shloka, I have had the experience that I had to repeat it 3-4 times. So, pay attention to this shloka. Now, if in the last 2 shlokas, wherein the movement or vikara of the material world, which is matter, from that standpoint, I the self is the constant. Now in the last shloka, if someone were to say that the self also is coming and going, which is the kshanika vijnanavada, and their purpose is to prove that there is only shunya, and they can easily achieve that through this particular tarka shastra based logic, and they arrive at the point that as is the material world, the layer of matter, which we call as prapancha, is constantly changing, so also is the experience, so also could be the experience that the one experiencing it is also kshanika, is also temporary, comes and goes, moment to moment, there is change. We use the help of the memory and the continuation of that memory. And in that, when you go to the sequential backward, in that the question comes, what about life, being born, and death happening? From that perspective, there is a complete disconnect to say that there is a continuity. And one of the key features of our Sanatana Dharma, Vaidika Sanatana Dharma, also known as Hinduism, the key features or the key tenet is the Punarjanma, rebirth. If we take incarnation as the Avataravada, then we cannot use the word reincarnation. Because for Bhagavan, it is not the reincarnation. If alone, he alone can reincarnate. For us, it is a choiceless expression that we are pushed into birth and death cycle. Therefore, it is rebirth. So that rebirth concept, if that is removed, then Karma Yoga Siddhanta gets completely toppled, logically. And thereby, any other Vyavahara Dharma also gets toppled. And things become chaotic in pattern. So here, the logic that is brought in, you and I may think, who thinks in this pattern, Swami ji? हमने तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं था ऐसे. See, we may or may not have thought through this particular logic, but in the field of this Vedantic study, it is so consistently the arguments happen. If you look at the Shankara Bhashya or the Madhusudana Saraswati's treatise on Advaita Vedanta or Sureshwaracharya, you would find, or even the Gaudapada Karika, there you would find that all of these logics are taken wherein we or our mind can get trapped in its own illusory perceptions and then get deluded by it. So the logic has to be profound from all possible angles. The purpose of this Advaita Makaranda is to show that there is Aikyatvam. So in this, from the second to the seventh shloka, we find that the Aikyatvam is established through various steps. There is the Swarupa Lakshana, then there is the Tatastha Lakshana, if that words can jog your memory. So we went through that wave. Then how this Atma Chaitanya is Vilakshana to all the modifications of different layers and yet establish the consistency or the permanency or the eternity of this Atma Chaitanya, thereby establishing the oneness, saying that that Brahman is also of the same nature, thereby Atma is nothing but that Brahma Chaitanya. Therefore, this Atma Chaitanya is the Adhara, the substratum of this entire, which we call as the created world. And in that, we also specifically went through the logic that just like in the rope and the snake, the Avarana and the Vikshepa both are gone. But in our experience, logically at least, we say that only the Avarana is gone the vikshepa is not gone, then how can we call it as realization? We went through that logic wherein we said the problem is not with vikshepa. Whether it exists or not is not the problem. The problem is our wrong delusional identity to it, and if that is broken, how does it matter if it extends or not extends? And then came this particular sequence wherein of the temporariness or the kshanikatva of the material and I, the Atma Chaitanya, being the constant. This is the 15th, right? So in the 13th sloka we saw that. In the 14th one, there was a stipulated argument that was raised saying, what if that the Chaitanya is also, the Atma Chaitanya is also coming and going? So we had seen a particular logic. The technical word there we used was pratyabhignya. Pratyabhignya meaning, abhignya means the memory. Through that memory we connected the dots. That the commonality of that then who experienced and the memory of, and that now which is it the memory of, that commonness continues thereby through the memory, which is again at that time I had said it is not a very sound platform to establish it, but it does get logically established. Now the question taken is, you are talking of birth and death, and we say, my knowledge says that there is birth and death. So the idea here is, we claim that it is our knowledge that there is birth and death, but birth and death of who? The body. Whether somebody understands Vedanta or not, whether somebody is belonging under the umbrella of Vaidika Hindu Sanatana Dharma or the Abrahamic or the atheist or whoever it is, when somebody dies or something dies, we say that that which was there is no more there. That person has left, and what is left behind is a dead carcass. It's just a dead body. That which was enlivening is not there anymore. Funnily, even the atheists say that. Those who are dead against come in unison in death. They say something which was enlivening, it has left. So this death and birth is my knowledge, is my experience. So the Vedanta says that is not your experience, that is the jiva's confusion. That is not knowledge. Confusion cannot be taken and ascertained as knowledge. And the way, when I started, I said it is a pure poetic beauty, wherein he says, svajanma nāśaṃ va. My own birth and death is probably the only thing that which not just a probability, a certainty, that which the Atma Chaitanya doesn't illumine. Do you remember your birth? Does anybody remember our death? So in the Nyaya Shastra, Nyayikas, that is a technical word. Here Nyaya Shastra does not mean justice. Nyaya Shastra means the logical affirmations. So the Nyayikas, those who follow that. So the Nyayikas have a particular logic. And what do they say? They say that, they use the example that before that the pot was created, the pot was non-existent. When the pot gets broken, it again becomes non-existent. So the non-existence meaning it was anadi tattva, it was not there, timeless and beginningless. So they conclude that all of this, that which we experience, came from non-existence and goes into non-existence. Came from non-existence, goes into non-existence. Now this logic, though very profound, the confusion exists because we are seeing it as the experiencer, not as the knower. We experience a lot of things, and the experience cannot be the proof. So in the very beginning, when we were studying, we are given that there are different kinds of ways of knowledge. Pratyaksha pramana, anumana pramana, apta vakya, and shabda pramana, or the aparokshanubhuti. So the pratyaksha pramana, as you are walking into this Advaita Makaranda satsang today, was the floor or the ground wet? So what is the conclusion that we can draw? Areva. You saw the pratyaksha that the land was dry. In one example, what to say, one stone, two birds. The pratyaksha is revealing that the ground is dry. But my anumana, the inference through that which I saw, the pratyaksha, what did I see? Or what did I conclude? That there is no rain. No rain is not pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is that which is available for the senses, the organs of perception. Aksha being the primary of that. To the organs of action, to the organs of perception, the knowledge is not available. Whatever is available, that the land is dry, the floor is dry, thereby, based on that pratyaksha, I draw a conclusion which is the anumana. Presently, how many of us are here? We can immediately count. This is a pratyaksha. There are at least 5-6 people that were regular that are not there. So what is the anumana? The inference that they are absent. Yatra yatra dhumaha, tatra tatra, wherever there is smoke, there is vahnihi, agni. So once I asked the kids, wherever there is smoke, and they unanimously shouted, there must be cigarette. Whatever is the purva anubhava, the conclusion drawn is that. Now you and I, when we are told wherever there is smoke, we would probably conclude there is agarbatti. Based on my purva anubhava, my conclusion is drawn. That it is what was my earlier experience, that could be it. Pratyaksha and Paroksha. Then there is Apta Vakya, which is neither Pratyaksha nor there is Paroksha. Apta, somebody that you trust implicitly. Apta Jana. Aptajana, those who are our well-wishers. And through their words we come to conclude, though we say the entire field of science is scientific, proven, almost all of you sitting here are more educated than what I am educated in. We all study in our basic sciences that atom is the building block of this creation. Atom has electrons, protons, neutrons, positrons, quark. You have to confirm that for me. I think there is one more particle called quark. That is a building block. Has anybody here seated ever seen, let alone a quark, an atom? Because for our sake, that which is printed on the book, when we were studying, there is a size that they print of the neutron. If that is the size that they have to print the neutron in, the orbit of the electron that it is shown, circular, it has to be twice the size of this hall. Even that which is depicted is only arbitrary. Has any one of us seen it? Experienced it? At the most, what we may have seen going through biology, maybe a cell, a cellular cross section we may have seen. Cellular is also very tiny. With the microscope we may have seen it. When you cut a plant cross section or a animal tissue or a skin tissue, we may see the cross section and come to a point wherein we see the cell also has a nucleus and it has mitochondria and it has all of these components. So we see that. There is a cellular wall that also can be seen. Beyond that, I don't think none of us sitting here might have seen an atom. But that was told by Apta. Based on that Apta, our entire science and its study is purely on that Aptavakya. So, out of Shraddha only. I would not want to translate the word Shraddha into belief or faith, because it is too hollow. Both belief and faith are hollow. Shraddha is much more than that. But for our particular purpose right now, even if we translate it as faith or belief in that Aptavakya, thereby we create a construct of science purely on belief. And the sad thing is, when we come to the field or realm of Vedanta, spirituality, religion, we act, on the high horse. I said, I have to be scientific. I have to evaluate scientific. Your science itself that you are taking into consideration is born out of Shraddha. So shut up. We don't even cut that little scope of Shraddha to be a possibility to even investigate. My ask is, that much of Shraddha which you have shown in the field of science, show that much of it at least here. Because Aptavakya is also quite a strong possibility. Now, Apta is that one that you trust. It is not thrust on you. So that trusted word, Aptavakya. Then there is Shabda Pramana. Why is Shabda Pramana so important? Now, Shabda Pramana is that important because through Shabda there is the affirmative of Jnana. Therefore, it becomes the Pramana, the means of that Jnana. And the entire volume of the scriptures, specifically the Upanishads, and the supporting text of Upanishads meaning Shruti, the supporting scriptures of the Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, and various Prakarana Granthas, commentaries, Tika, Bhashya, all of this voluminous work put together is supporting that Shruti. Not that Shruti requires support. Supporting that Shruti Vakyas so that my intellect can come to grasp it and understand it. So we have seen this several times as to there are different kinds of pramana. And the weakest of this pramana is the pratyaksha pramana. People say seeing is believing. There are so many things that we see and experience, and it is a common knowledge, and yet what we are seeing is not what is. Early in the morning, we have a colloquial way of saying, and it is a norm all across the globe: sun rises, and the evening, sun sets. The sun neither rises nor sets. But our Pratyaksha says, from the eastern horizon, I see the orange blob glowingly, come up. The orangeness or the bright yellow in the midday is also our Pratyaksha, but that is not what is the very shape and form or the color of the sun. Through the refractive processes, at that particular time it appears so. Then that where the sun displays its glory is the sky. What is the color of that sky? Isn't that a common knowledge? Isn't it our pratyaksha? And we create, poetry after poetry after poetry. नीले नीले अंबर पर. अरे अंबर नीला नहीं होता है. It doesn't have a color. But because of the particles of the atmosphere, again there is a refraction, and the process, there is all other wavelengths of colors are absorbed. The only color which is not absorbed happens to be the blue. Therefore, I see the blue sky. Attribute the colorless space a color called blue. And because of that, there is still an extension of our pratyaksha, and we believe that the waters are also blue. Now, when you take that blue ocean into your hands, what color is it? Is there any blueness to it? It is colorless. Once I was in an island in the Caribbean. Half of it is Dutch, half of it is French, I think. It's called Saint Martin. So, as I was landing, I was specifically told, I don't like sitting in the window seats. The height is the problem, the length is the problem, and the height, it curves, and the whole trip I have to be like this or like this, whichever side of the window that I am sitting. But I was told specifically to sit, and it was worth it. That 4.5, 5 hours of trip. As the flight was landing, it was a spectacle. White sands, and the ocean extending from there. I could literally count about 16 to 17 different shades of blue. And one of those days when that camp and yajna was happening, I said, let's go to the beach. I went almost a mile into the ocean. A mile is a little longer than a kilometer. 1.67 kilometers is 1 mile. So 1.67 kilometers into the ocean, and it was still just at the waist level. So sitting down, I could, scan the entire spectrum, and I could literally count all those different colors. I experience it. That is my pratyaksha. That which is not blue, which is the sky, reflects into the water, which is also colorless, and depending on the depth of that particular the sea, the difference between the ocean and the sea, I am told the sea is with a lesser depth, whereas the ocean is gigantically deep. So in that sea, when depending on how the surface of the earth is contouring it, the depth of it decides what shade or color it reflects in. From light blue to dark blue to deep turquoise, you could see all those shades. Water doesn't have any color, but I see myself that there is so much. So the weakest one to gain knowledge is pratyaksha. But then, and even the paroksha is also not very solid. How many times did we conclude and only to realize a day after or a week after or a month after that what I perceived and what I concluded of what I perceived were totally different. बचपन में एक ऐसी वी कॉल्ड इट पोएट्री, दूर से देखा कि गंजे नाच रहे थे, बॉल्ड पीपल वर डांसिंग, पास जाके देखा अंडे उबल रहे थे. There is no meaning or rhyme in it. The point there I am trying to make is that what we see and what we conclude, how many times have we seen that it has been wrong? You are going through some tense situation thinking that everybody is plotting against you. There are two people talking. Now what is your conclusion? मेरे बारे में ही बात कर रहे होंगे. You would not have been even anywhere remotely discussed in that. But we conclude. I know, I saw. The entire field of experience, we base it off of our pratyaksha and paroksha and call that as reality. But the reality is far away from what we are experiencing. Just because I am experiencing doesn't mean it exists. Is this statement clear? If this is clear, then this is drawn into the shloka saying, there is death, there is birth. But I, the knower, the illumining principle, the Atma Chaitanya, neither experience the birth nor death. Just like, take a paper and a pen. This is a challenge that in the last 32 years of my experience of teaching, nobody has won in this challenge. Would you like to experiment with it? Yes. Take a paper and a pen. Not right now. Whenever that environment. Take a paper and a pen in that environment. When you are about to sleep. Jot down the exact moment of your sleep. keep a stopwatch, keep a clicker, whatever it is, exact moment of your sleep. Not, even going into sleep is not a part of my experience. Departing from this world, that also is not a part of my experience. Taking birth, that also is not. Svajanma nāśaṃ va na draṣṭumarhati kaścana. We do not witness draṣṭum kaścana. Na draṣṭumarhati kaścana. We do not have the experience of this. So, how do they define birth and death? Tauhi. Now here we have to break the sentence. So follow along with the shloka. Look into the book and let's go through the words word by word. It will help. Page 50. Tauhi. The next word is prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. Are the words clear? prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. Now here, how does one read this sentence? prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau, uttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. Prag and uttara, they both get the following part of the sentence. prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau, uttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. That is when the sentence will make an apt sense. Have you noted that down? Like in your memory at least. prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau, uttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. If you are owning the copy, then you may want to write it down for your reference later. prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. Let's first start with the charama prathamakṣaṇau. Charama meaning the very, the very act at which prathamakṣaṇa, the first moment happens. Charama meaning that particular point at which that first moment happens. Which first moment? Prag abhava or the uttara abhava. What is birth? Prag abhava. Up until that moment when the birth had happened, it did not exist. That is birth. That is our experience. Based on our experience, what do we call as birth? Prior to that, it existed not. Abhava means not being there. When just before the moment it was born. I say, no, Swamiji, it was in the womb, it was conceived. prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. There also we calculate 40 weeks for the complete gestation of the womb. prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. Before that conceivement happened, it existed not. Right? So the birth, meaning prior to that it was not. That is my experience. See, when the magicians pull pigeons, rabbits, oranges, mangoes, ribbons, what do you call those sparkling things? Confetti? Those sparkling things that, right? So that thin papers, all useless things he creates. Why do we get so amazed and zapped or shocked? Until we saw, it was non-existent. And then he puts the cloth on the top and removes it. Uttara abhava prathamakshanam. It's a disappearance, it's death. Death meaning what? From that point onwards, it exists not. Is this much clear? Prior to its being, it existed not. Just at that moment, from where it exists not, is the death. Birth is that where there is prior non-existent, and death is posterior non-existent. That is janma and nāśaṃ. Born and death, this is how is our experience. Of what? First of all, it is based on our pratyaksha. Second, it is the birth and death of what? Birth and death of that combination of layers of body, mind, intellect. The layer of matter. Just like when the potness was born and the potness dies, may appear as a truthful statement from the standpoint of the name and form. From the standpoint of the clay, was it ever non-existent? The appearance of it can happen because of there is existence. The very fact that there is clay, it can appear in the form of a pot, and the potness can disappear. Has anything happened to that clay? Prior to its forming into the pot, it was a lump. In that lump, was it not clay? After having given a shape, after baking it, after cooling it, after tempering it, it still is clay. after it breaks, it still continues to be clay. What has come and gone? Actually speaking, nothing has come, nothing has gone. It's only the appearance that has appeared and the appearance has disappeared. Where are we all caught up in? In the appearances. The snakeness which we projected, as soon as the light is thrown in that particular direction, we see the rope. I claim, yesterday after the chick class, they're all new people. So they all came running. Swamiji, we just saw a snake. So I was almost about to laugh at it and I said, is it a snake or is it a rope? And then one of them asked, what is the significance, Swamiji? What is the significance if we see a snake? So I said, I'll tell you what I see. After seeing a snake, you are still here asking me the question. That means it signifies that it has not bitten you. So it is a glorious day. Enjoy it. No, Swamiji, I am asking of the deeper significance. I said, what more deeper than you being alive, man? Because we associate things, right? So you saw a snake. If it is real, no problem. You stay away, it stays away. But if you have slightest doubt, what do? You throw the light. You see a rope and still you have a speculative mind. Therefore, with a stick you lift the whole rope up and say, okay. What has appeared? Whatever my mind projected appeared. What has disappeared? Whatever my mind has projected, that has disappeared. In fact, even to say disappeared is wrong. That which was projected, I realized it is non-existent. Isn't it? When you say it disappeared, that means it was there and now it is disappeared. It was never there. Where are we caught up? Into the sense of reality of what my pratyaksha pramana is feeding me, feeding my mind, and we ascertain it, saying that is what is. I may be messing this up. In science, there was an experiment done by Heisenberg. The wave and particle that the light appears both as light and particle. When you shoot a atom of light, if it is a particle, it has to have certain nature. If it is a wave, it has to have a certain nature. But when they took a photographic experiment, it appeared in 2-3 different places after it was shot through a refracting surface. It appeared in 2-3. So the conclusion is that it can appear both as a wave or a particle. Therefore, there is a high possibility of it expressing in various places. The most keen probable place is where we tell that I have experienced at this point, where at the same point it could be there or anywhere else. When the day I read this, it proves the mithyatva of what we call as the tangible solid world. It's high probability that we are reading it the way we are reading it. But it doesn't mean that it is reality. How close to this concept? So that pratyaksha which we experience, that which we are giving validity to, and say that it was born, it died. Whereas from the Tattvic standpoint, there is never birth, never death. It's only an assumption that it has been born, it is only an assumption that it died. Am I getting across? A very, very subtle concept being explained. Even if we don't grasp it, we feel that we have grasped it. At least we have started, on the line of thinking in these lines. So, svajanma nāśaṃ va draṣṭumarhati kaścana trauhi prāguttarābhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau uttara-abhāvacaramaprathamakṣaṇau. Therefore, that which is, the conclusion is very baffling. That which cannot be proven as a happening, as birth, or as a happening as a death. If that itself is an assumption of a reality, because it is not really experienced, because from non-existence nothing can be born, from that which is existing cannot become non-existent. But on the contrary, we appear to experience it and consider that as a reality. That we conclude as our day-to-day reality. If the birth and death itself cannot be proven, what to talk of in between that birth and death? How real is it? Is this much understood? If this is understood, the implication of it. Because we conclude all of this is Maya, all of this is Mithya. Understanding that it is not real. Whatever is shifting the standpoint here. Shifting the standpoint of where we are today right now. This is not this may be our intellectual grasp. It is not our svanubhuti. It is not our aparokshanubhuti. Up until then, what is the implication of this? The implication is, if this logic is understood and I grasp it thoroughly, and yet I have to go function in the outside world, then what should be my attitude towards that outside world? That I still participate in it, knowing that it is just a play. How much seriousness should I give it to a play? I play the role according to the prarabdha, wherever I am placed, without taking much of the seriousness of localizing, personalizing, and taking the weight of it and yet do 100% justice to it. Now from this standpoint, see, applying and dedicating it to a higher altar, doing without any kartrutva or bhoktrutva bhava. See, all that I am carrying this much of heaviness, saying that I am the doer, I should be the enjoyer, this is all mine. Mine of what? All that extra baggage that I am carrying, without that, when I function in that world, it uplifts that situation wherever it is, and it doesn't carry the dead weight of the vasana creating agami sanchita prarabdha for the jiva. How liberatedly we can function through the entire field of happenings. Why? It is just a play, it is just a role. Play that role diligently. Don't look back for any kartrutva or bhoktrutva. Not even an appreciation. Otherwise, where are we caught up? What an indecent person. Kanisam thanks kuda cheppaledu. Yeah, where are we caught up, man? Am I getting across? How sincerely, if it is applied, whether they say thanks or not, whether they acknowledge or not, it is not about them, it is not about that. It is about how unclinging, uncluttered you can stay awarefully while functioning through that role. Whether I am talking to the group of students, whether I am talking to the group of sincere seekers, whether I am talking to a group of teachers, whether I am talking to the group of soldiers, whether I am interacting with people that are nationalists, whether I am talking to the people that are trying to conserve, protect, save civilizational ethos, cultural ethos. They are all seemingly important because that environment provides me the opportunity to understand this knowledge, this wisdom that can liberate me. Therefore, a certain value is ascertained to that particular role. I play that role. When freedom fighters went to Ramana Maharshi, they were like insisting that he join the movement of the freedom struggle. He said, I will not stand against you when you are doing this effort. It is noble. He acknowledged it is noble. But you are expecting me to throw, in those days there was already bioscope. That little thing where you see the movement. There were no cinemas then. He says, if in the bioscope there is a house burning, should I run, get a bucket of water and throw on that bioscope? Acknowledging that effort is necessary. Otherwise, you will not have the opportunity to pursue this that much alone. So therefore, I will not negate your effort. Do. So from where I stand, you are asking me to throw a bucket of water on the screen. He was not being apathetic to it. He was stating the reality, which is not a reality for us right now. We are caught up in as silly little things as somebody said sorry, somebody said thank you, or somebody did not say sorry, did not say thank you. We are caught up in that, and we can waste our entire day through that kind of wool gathering. It is not about who said sorry, who said who did what. What standpoint am I functioning through this prarabdha of mine, which gives an interaction to the world. I cannot disconnect. but at least I can detach. And what is the standpoint of detachment? That which is non-existent before its birth, that which is non-existent after death. How much reality should I give to that which is an assumed reality? Am I getting across? A very powerful, if not understood properly, very disturbing thought. Because it invalidates all that which I am experiencing. All that which I consider as real, prominent, important, that I have to dedicate my life to it. Therefore, when somebody concludes that Bhagavad Gita is for management, Bhagavad Gita is for psychological study, Bhagavad Gita is for headache, Bhagavad Gita, all kinds of things. Adi Shankaracharya says very clearly, this is moksha grantha. It is not talking about pravritti, it is talking about nivritti. That from that nivritti standpoint, whatever is your prarabdhavashat karma, do it diligently. He is not saying that give a reality value to it and function. Devalue it and function through it. You stay detached. Am I getting across? Otherwise, this is a very disturbing shloka. As disturbing as the entire Mandukya Karika or Ashtavakra Gita. So try to mull over it. I'll try repeating it again tomorrow. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satyamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.